Someone is shopping for scheduling software for their dental office. They ask an AI assistant which one to pick. It thinks for a few seconds. Then it recommends 3 products by name, and it shows where it got that info from. A review site, a discussion thread where a few office managers compared notes, and an article in a trade publication. Your product is one of the best options for that buyer. After all, your website clearly says so. Your pricing page is well written, your comparison table is accurate, and every section on it answers a real question. But none of it was cited. That's what this lesson is about. Most of what AI models say about your company, they learn from places you don't control. So if all your effort goes into your own website, you are working on the smaller half of the problem. By the end of this video, you'll know where those mentions actually come from, which of them you can influence, and which of them you can't. And you'll have a way for influencing these sites in a way that doesn't get you in trouble. Let's get into it. So let's start with a number, because it changes how you should spend your time. Research from Ahrefs found that roughly 85% of brand mentions in AI search come from pages other than your own website. Reviews, community discussions, expert commentary, editorial coverage. Now sit with that for a second. If 85% of what gets said about your company comes from somewhere else, then your own site is not where most of this gets decided. Of course, it still needs to be good, but you could write the best pricing page in your industry, and the model might never quote a word of it. And there's a reason for that, which is worth understanding before we go any further. Now, an AI model reading your website knows exactly what it's reading. It's a company describing itself. And that's useful for facts. What you charge, what you do, who you serve, how to reach you, and nobody knows those better than you. But it's weak for judgment when the question is whether your product is any good, or who it suits, or what's frustrating about it. The page you wrote about yourself doesn't settle anything. After all, every company says its product is good. So the model goes looking for the people with no reason to flatter you, like a customer who paid and then wrote about it. An office manager answering a stranger's question in a forum like Reddit. A journalist who talked to 5 vendors and picked the best one. That's not a rule anyone coded it in. It's just the same instinct a careful buyer has. You read the company's page for the specifications, and you read everyone else for the truth. So this isn't a website project. Whether an AI model recommends you gets decided on sites that belong to other people. So let's map the places, because they are not interchangeable, and they don't respond to the same effort. There are 6 that matter. 1. Review platforms. The sites where buyers leave ratings and written reviews. And these carry a lot of weight. Every listing is laid out the same way, new reviews keep arriving, and each one is a real person describing what it's like to actually use your product. 2. Community discussions. Forums, question and answer sites, subreddits, professional groups, people asking each other for recommendations on what to use. This is where the most candid opinions live, and most AI models lean on this information for that exact reason. 3. Editorial coverage. Trade publications, industry news, journalists writing about your space. 4. Expert commentary. A practitioner quoted in an article, a consultant's blog, a specialist writing about the tools they actually use. 5. Roundups and comparison articles. The best X for Y post, someone else's list that your product either appears on or it doesn't. And 6. Directories and profiles. Category listings, marketplaces, app stores, local business profiles. 6 places, and your website is number 7. And your website is the only one you fully control, which is exactly why it counts for less than the other 6 combined. Now here's the part most teams get wrong, because they treat all of this as one big problem called getting mentioned, then get discouraged because most of it seems out of reach. But it's not one problem, it's 4, and they each require different effort. Some of it you fully control, and your profiles on review platforms and directories are yours to write. And so are App Store listings, marketplace pages, and entries on category sites. These are pages about your brand on other people's websites, and most companies haven't touched them in years. Then some of it you can influence but not decide, like reviews from your customers. You can ask and you can make it easy, and you can even respond, but you can't write them, and you shouldn't want to. Then some of it you have to earn. Editorial coverage, being quoted as an expert, getting onto someone's list on best tools in your category. And this takes real work and real time, and no amount of money makes it easier. And some of it is completely off limits. Posting fake reviews, creating accounts to recommend yourself in forums, paying for community posts that don't say they were paid for. And we'll come back to why this amounts to black hat AEO. So let's start with the first group, because it's the low-hanging fruit. Go look at your company's listings on the main review platforms in your category right now. And most people who do this will find that something is probably out of date. Maybe there's an old logo, a description written by whoever set it up 4 years ago, or features that no longer exist. Or worse, features you haven't even added, or pricing that's wrong. Now that listing is a page an AI model can read, and it's giving people wrong or incomplete information about you. But fixing it only takes an afternoon. Here's what to get right. Your description says what your product does, who it's for, and what makes it different. In the first 2 sentences, not the 5th. And your category is correct. If you're listed under the wrong one, you're invisible to everyone asking about the right one. Then your feature list matches reality, both directions, because missing features cost you, and the features you no longer offer cost you even more, because a customer who signs up for something that isn't there leaves a review saying so. Your pricing is current, and this one goes stale faster than anything else, and it's the single most asked question about any product. Then do the same on every other listing you have. The directories, the marketplaces, the app stores, the local profiles if you have physical locations. And make a list of them first, because too many companies don't know how many they even have. Now a step that sounds small but isn't. Once you've got that list of external sites, check that they say the same things. Not word for word, no, but your company name spelled the same way, the same category, pricing that doesn't contradict itself across 3 different sites, a description of who you serve that doesn't say small teams in one place and enterprise in another. Because when the facts disagree, a model reading all of them has to guess which is right. And when a model isn't sure about something, the safest thing it can do is leave it out and mention a company it is sure about. And you've probably seen the effort from the other side. Ask an assistant about a company with a messy web presence, and the answer gets vague and hedged. Ask about one with a consistent story, and the answer is specific. So yes, this one is tedious. You're reading the same 4 facts on 8 different websites. But it's the one job in this lesson that no one can block. You don't need a customer to write anything or a journalist to call you back. You just update what's already sitting there with the correct information. Now, most companies think about reviews as a star rating. Get the average up, get the count up. But models read the written text because the rating is one number and it tells them almost nothing. But the sentences underneath tell them who your product suits, what breaks, what the support is like, and whether it's worth the money. That's what ends up quoted in an AI answer. And that changes what you should ask for. A review that gives you 5 stars and says you offer a great product is worth almost nothing to you here. But a review that says, we're a 12-person agency, the setup took an afternoon, and the reporting saved our account managers about a day a month, that's worth a great deal. Because it's specific, it names the situation, and it's the kind of sentence that can be lifted into an answer from someone in that same situation. So when you ask a customer for a review, give them a little direction. Ask them what they were trying to solve, what changed, and who they'd recommend it to. And you'll get a story about using your product instead of a star rating. 3 more things about reviews. First, recency counts, because a profile with 200 reviews where the newest is 2 years old reads as a product people used to use. And spread counts. Reviews on one platform and nowhere else is a thinner picture than reviews across 3. Lastly, respond to them publicly, including the bad ones, because a response is more text on that page, and it's text you wrote. And a company that answers a complaint with specifics reads very differently from one that never replies. Now this one is the hardest one, and the one most people want a trick for. Community threads carry a lot of weight because they're candid. Someone asks which tool to use for a specific situation, and 5 people who have no stake answer honestly. And that's about as close to real evidence as the web gets, and models treat it accordingly. And there's exactly one honest way in, and it's slower than you want to hear. Show up as yourself, say who you are and who you work for, and offer genuinely useful information. That means answering questions in your area of knowledge, even when your product isn't the answer, and especially when it isn't. If someone describes a situation your product handles badly, saying so is the single most credible thing you can do in that community, and most people remember it. And it means staying out of any thread where someone is asking for a recommendation in your category, even when you're upfront about who you work for. Because the moment a vendor names their product in a thread like that, everyone reading it stops trusting the answer. And usually, somebody replies underneath it to point out who you work for. So now the thread the model reads has your company in it, sitting next to a complaint about a vendor turning up to sell. You went looking for a mention, but you earned a bad one. So let someone else say your name. And if no one ever does, that's telling you something about your product, not about how you're posting. And it means reading, because communities in your space are telling you what buyers actually ask, in their own words, for free, and that's worth more than most keyword research. But most of what you post shouldn't be about your product at all. Answer the general questions in your field. Help someone work through a problem that has nothing to do with what you sell. Recommend a free tool when the free tool is the right answer. If someone scrolls your posting history and finds 40 useful answers and 2 mentions of your company, you're a regular. If they find the reverse, you're an ad. And a few basics make you welcome anywhere. Read the rules before your first post, because most communities have them and most say something about promoting yourself. Don't drop links unless someone asks for one. Answer inside the thread instead of trying to move the conversation onto a demo. And stick around for the long haul. Someone posting for a year gets grace that a week-old account never will. Now, the part about shortcuts. Fake accounts recommending your product get caught, not always by the platform, but by the community. And communities are unforgiving about it. And the thread where you get caught is the one that sticks around. It's still there years later, still getting read, and a model looking into your company finds people talking about how your company faked its own recommendations. So you paid for a mention, but what you got was a permanent record of getting caught. And unlike an ad campaign, you can't stop running it. Now, expert commentary is the piece most teams skip, and it's the one with the best return for the effort. And the way it works is simple. Journalists and writers need people who know things. So if you make yourself easy to find and easy to quote, you get quoted. And a quote from a named person at your company in someone else's article is exactly the kind of evidence a model reaches for. 3 things make this work. 1, pick a real person, not the company, a person with a name, a title, and a track record someone can check. Models cross-reference people, and a spokesperson who exists nowhere else online adds nothing. 2, give them something only you know, your usage data, a pattern you see across customers, a trend in your numbers, because a quote saying the industry is changing fast is worthless. A quote saying we looked at 4,000 accounts and the ones that do X renew at a noticeably higher rate is the reason someone writes an article. And 3, be responsive. Reporters work on deadlines that feel unreasonable, and the person who answers in 2 hours gets quoted. The person who answers 2 days later doesn't. Now, there are services that send out reporter requests, and they work, but the same rule applies. Answer the ones where you actually know something. A generic answer to every request gets you nothing and burns the contact. The best tools for X articles, and these come up constantly in AI answers because they match the question almost exactly. So getting on them is part outreach and part merit. Find the ones that rank for your category, see who writes them, and get in touch with a reason why you should be included. Not a request, a reason. What you do that the other entries don't. 2 honest notes about this. First, some of these are pay to play. The writer takes money for placement, and that's legal, it's common, and you should know which ones they are before you spend anything. Because a list where everyone pays carries less weight with readers, and eventually with models too. And if you appear on a list with the wrong information, fix it. Outdated pricing on a widely read comparison article does more damage than not being included at all. So somewhere out there, an article says your product costs something it doesn't, or lacks something it has, or was founded by someone who never worked there. And old articles don't quietly retire. They just keep getting read, and a model reading them has no way to know that they're stale. Start with a list. Search for your company name, search your product name, search your category with your name attached, and read the first 3 pages of results. Know anything that's wrong. Then write to the people who published it. Politely share the correction and something that backs it up, and a surprising number of them will fix it, because no writer wants to have published something that's wrong. But for the ones who won't, publish the correct version somewhere you can control, and make it clear and current, because you can't delete the wrong page, but you can make sure the right answer is easy to find, and better support it. So here's all of it as a routine, with how often each part needs doing. Once, at the start, build the list. That's every place your company appears that isn't your website. Review platforms, directories, marketplaces, app stores, major articles. And this takes a few hours, and you only do it once. Then, every month, go back to the 3 or 4 listings that matter most. Is the pricing right? Is the description current? Are there any new reviews to respond to? This should only take about 20 minutes. Also, on a monthly cadence, pick 5 customers who have used your product long enough to have an opinion and email them. Ask what problem they came to you with, how they were approaching it before, and what's different now. Then send them a link to whichever review site matters most in your category. Then, every quarter, search your company name and your product name and read the first 3 pages of results. Ask 2 or 3 AI assistants what they say about you as well. Write down everything that's wrong and email whoever published it. This is how you find the comparison article running your old pricing, the review site still listing a feature you dropped, the directory crediting a founder who left 3 years ago, and the assistant that's confidently telling people about a limit you removed 2 versions ago. And the last part has no set frequency. Show up in the communities where your buyers are, answer things you know, and get your named expert in front of people who write about your space. None of that is complicated. It just takes months before you see much of a difference, so the sooner you get started, the better. 2 things to be straight about before we close. First, this is a slow process. A company that starts today will see what AI assistants say about it change over 2 or 3 quarters, not 2 or 3 weeks, because you're waiting on customers to write reviews, or writers to publish, and on models to pick all of it up. But that's not a failure of the approach, it's just what earning reputation has always taken. And second, you can't fake your way past it, because every shortcut here has the same problem. The web remembers, models read the web, and getting caught is a permanent addition to what gets said about you. And the companies doing this well are, almost without exception, the ones with customers who are glad to say so. And there isn't a version of this that works without that. But that cuts both ways, and it works in your favor. A competitor can't buy their way past you either. They'd need their own customers writing their own reviews and their own coverage, and that takes them the same 2 or 3 quarters it takes you. So let's pull it all together. Roughly 85% of what AI models say about your company comes from the wider web, and your own site is trusted for facts and discounted for judgment, because every company says its product is good. So there are 6 places that mentions come from. Those are review platforms, community discussions, editorial coverage, expert commentary, roundups, and directories. And sort them by what you can do. So fix your own profiles because that's free, and most of them are out of date. Make the facts agree across every listing, because a model that isn't sure about you will mention someone else. And when you ask customers for a review, ask them about their situation, so you get details rather than a star rating. Then answer questions in the communities where your buyers are. Say who you work for, and stay out of any thread where someone is asking for a product recommendation. Put someone from your company in front of writers, with something only your company knows. Lastly, run the check monthly, search your name quarterly, and correct what's wrong. And if you take one thing from this lesson, take this. What gets you into AI answers mostly happens on websites that aren't your company's property. So stop asking what you can put on your own pages, and start asking who out there has a reason to mention you. If this lesson was useful, hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. I have a lot more videos on AEO planned. Thanks for watching.